Portions of the day's programming are reproduced by means of electrical transcriptions or tape recordings.
What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power. What's your plan for tomorrow? Are you a leader or will you follow? Are you a fighter or will you cower? It's our time to take back the power.
It is February 18th, 2019. My name is Richard, and this is The Buzz, exclusively here on TVK Magazine and TVKRadio.com. Tonight, before we get started in today's episode, tonight is the 2019 Nutsies, the 5th annual Nutsy Awards. Tune in, TVK Magazine, TVKRadio.com. Listen to the show. Have a good time. It is an award show for people who hate award shows. Our award show is unlike anything you have ever heard in your life. We're going to give away some huge awards tonight in music, television, movies, website awards, including our big one, the Writer of the Year, featured article, your favorite TVK radio show, if you listen to all of our other shows, and a whole lot more. Check it out tonight. Now, today's topic actually revolves around that, and this is going to be a hard show for me. I don't think I've talked about this subject on a show. Mostly because most of our shows we do are comedy-based. Live is comedy-based. The Winos is somewhat comedy-based. S&S is wrestling-based. I'm not going to discuss that there. Cinecrap is comedy-based. Most of our shows revolve around making you happy and making you smile. This is the show that I just want to talk to you, the person. The Nutsy Awards are named after a stuffed squirrel, and that my mom gave me, and I want to start back to why today is hard for me. In 2013, on February 18th, my mom passed away. The woman who raised me, who taught me valuable life lessons, parted from this world. It is the hardest day of the year for me still, outside. It's the hardest day of the year for me. It was, there's a backstory to understand that. I remember it being 9:20 in the morning and my cell phone going off, and I was adopted. My grandparents adopted me. I did not know this until I was later on in my adult years when I had to go get a birth certificate. So I had to get to know my biological mother, who they told me was my sister for the longest time. You want some fucked up shit. But my grandmother still raised me. I still look at her as my mother. I just got lucky enough in life to have two. My biological mother called me at 9:25, and immediately my heart sunk at that moment because I knew that something was off. I knew that something bad had happened. And that's when I found out my mom had passed away. I'm probably going to cry during this episode. And if I do, hey, it's real. She'd been battling a lot of health issues. And to go back in time, we have to rewind. It's Christmas 2008. It is the last Christmas that she was healthy. The last Christmas I got to spend with her. She, gave gifts. And honestly, my mom didn't really have a lot of money. But when she did do something, like she bought me a television for my birthday out of lottery winnings. The woman would play dollar scratch-offs and would win constantly. And I don't understand it. Because I've played dollar scratch-offs, and all I can ever win's another fucking ticket. It's a never-ending cycle of lose ticket, lose ticket, lose ticket. But she ended up buying me like a 19-inch LCD TV. It was my very first flat screen. I was super excited about it. Christmas in 2008, she really couldn't afford anything because my ex and I were helping her. And she just presented me with the stuffed Beanie Baby squirrel. And honestly, you get a stuffed squirrel and you're just like, I never really return gifts because I think that's shitty. Love that squirrel to death. But that squirrel took on a whole new meaning for me 2 months later. It's around Valentine's Day, and I'm not sure on the date. I try to call her. I get no answer. And I'm like, okay, so maybe she's at the grocery store. And I try calling and calling and calling and no answer. And eventually, you think to yourself, well, something might be wrong, but I doubt it. It becomes 2 PM and no one. I called around the grocery stores to ask if anyone has seen her. And I go, something's not right. So I go over to the house I grew up in. And in the back door, the front door, the screen door is locked, which tells me something's wrong. My back door, you could take the screws out and get in the back door if you were locked out. It's a pain in the ass, but that was a way into the house. So I had to go back to my apartment, get a screwdriver, and come back. And I walked in thinking, okay, maybe she's asleep. And I walked in and I found my mother laying face first on a pile of, my mom was a hoarder, so just on a pile of stuff. Her face became droopy. And at that moment, I thought I found my mother dead. It traumatized me, honest to God. It was one of those things that I never really have been able to get out of my mind. Still to this day, that vision, that walking in on that moment haunts me. And it's kind of, and I get this a lot from when I was dating, that it wasn't, it shouldn't have affected me as much as it has. And I think it's just, you never prepare for that. I don't care what anyone tells you. You can prepare for something your entire life and it'll still affect the shit out of you. And that's exactly what happened. I had to give up my job at the radio station because of it, but that's still to come. So that happened. Eventually I call 911. And I honest to God thought my mom was dying then. The stroke sped up the onset of dementia, which caused her mind to deteriorate super fast. And it was hard. It was one of the most difficult things I have ever done in my life. Her doctor, I loved her doctor. I actually went to school with his daughter. Told us that we had 2 options. Either we live with her, get her to move in with us, or put her in a nursing home. And when you're growing up, you always have that thought in the back of your mind that you never want to put anyone in a nursing home. You want to try to do your best to take care of them. And that was something I always made sure. I always made that promise to her that I would always be like, hey, I'm never going to do this to you. So we gave up our place at the time and moved in with her to try to help, to try to clean up the house, to try to do everything. And it was hard. It was hard. There was times she overdrew her bank account. She wouldn't let anyone in charge. She wouldn't let anyone help her. And at the time, I didn't know how to deal. I knew nothing. I didn't know as much. I wish I would have known what I know now back then, because it would have been such a benefit for me then. Because we would end up in fights and I didn't know why. She would just start yelling and I didn't know why. I tried to make a pizza one time just to eat, and she pulled the pizza out of the oven without any sort of oven mitt about 2 minutes before it was going to go off and threw the pizza out the door. I mean, it was not an easy, it was not easy. And I always have now so much great respect for nurses. Because anyone who works at a nursing home, because I know after just doing that for 8 months that it's one of those things. Eventually something happened where I had to leave for a few days. And this is in October. My ex and I had split by then. That's another story for another time. But in this time frame, she had another stroke while I was gone. And at that point, the police decided they broke into the house to try to help her, to get her in an ambulance. And they went, okay, this house cannot be lived in anymore. And because it got really bad, apparently over the span of 5 days, you could try to clean stuff around with her. If anybody you know is a hoarder, you'll understand where I'm coming from. It's not easy to live with a hoarder at all. Because if you try to throw away anything, they're going to fight you. And that's exactly what happened. So it was in November, right before Thanksgiving, that I had to do the unthinkable and put her in a nursing home. I felt like the most horrible son in the entire fucking world. Because that promise that I made, I pretty much broke. And I know I wish I would have done it sooner, though, because she would have had better help than me trying to help her and making it worse, because that's what I feel like I did. But there's something to this story of growing up in a small town. Everybody assumes everything. And I have never been able to have a point to where I could address this. In the span of 4 months, I ended up no longer in a relationship. I found out I was adopted. I found out that the house was going to be condemned, and then when she was going in a nursing home, that they were going to take it. That the state of Missouri took it. And it becomes a lot to handle, where you pretty much think you have things started to be figured out, and it all just crumbles in the matter of seconds. So I was worried about that. I went from having this, I built up a lot for myself, to stopping everything to take care of her. I quit my job at the radio station, which was my favorite job ever. And I gave up doing stand-up to take care of her. It was hard. And it's still to this day, I wish now I would have got her help and tried to do what was best for me still, and I didn't. And I know it sounds heartless, but man, like I said, knowing what I know now and knowing all the help she could have had instead of me making it worse would have been fantastic. So, after putting her in the nursing home, come to find out, people in the little town talk. And people in said little town said, I just deserted her. And I have to tell you, when you hear this from people that you supposedly thought were your friends and family, it changes a lot. It changes what goes through your mind. It makes you angry and bitter. Those people can fuck off. Those people are wrong. I did not have an option in this situation at that point. Late November, I even tried to take my own life because I didn't know what was going on. Luckily, a friend found me and took me to the hospital. You can say what you want, but people in a small town that think they know everything fucking suck. So fast forward. Like I said, I remember the morning. It's the same date schedule as this week. It was a Monday. And I mean, her health deteriorated year after year in that nursing home. She started just putting words in. She couldn't stop saying now. Like every sentence was now. Like that's just how she talked for a long time. So one of the things that's been hard for me is that she was my biggest supporter, no matter what. And for the longest time, I fell into a pit. And I just want to give up right after all this happened. And in fact, I did. The girl I was seeing at the time, we split. I ended up rushing into a marriage. Ended up homeless. I mean, I hit rock bottom hard. But sometimes you need that to get to a good spot you're in. All of those emotions come flooding back on this day. Every year since. The fear of letting her down as a son has come back into my head on this day. Because I broke a promise, and yet I made the right call. But it still feels shitty. If that makes sense to any of you, it feels shitty. Just being, hey, I'm going to do this. It sucks. But I have to. So tonight, but then after a little bit, I started carrying around the stuffed squirrel with me because I needed that. And it was 2014. And I never really started I took the squirrel occasionally to places, and then got a few pictures, but it never really became a thing until 2014 when I'm not going to say his name, when a former friend of mine, we went to Planet Comic-Con Kansas City, and I was just like, I'm just going to take pictures of cosplayers with my squirrel. And it became a thing. And it became one of those things where I'm like, I think I got something here. And I became a very big a very big person to a person's not the word I'm looking for. It became a very big idea for me that anytime someone gets a picture with the squirrel, we donate money to alls.org and to help cure Alzheimer's and dementia. Because it's one disease that has affected my life in such a way that I didn't know possible. So we take the squirrel places and we see the squirrel in different locations, and it's become fun for me because it still feels like she's with me in a way and still gives me a chance to have her around still. Because, yeah, when your parents are supposed to be your biggest fans no matter what you do. And I lost that. I lost my dad at a young age. And I lost that at a time when it's hard. It's just hard. And I'm never a loss for words, but right now I'm a loss for words. I've never really cried on any show ever. And this is like, with the exception of the Nutsies, because it's emotional for me because of this. I know anyone listening knows, like, you know what it's like to lose someone. It's the hardest thing. So today is a very special day for this because no matter what, every year the Nutsies is going to fall on February 18th. It's a tribute to her. It's a tribute to her spirit because she was the most stubborn human being alive. You could try to help her and she would just tell you you're doing it wrong. She wanted to do things herself in her way. She would always carry around a saddle purse. Like, honest to God, it's a purse shaped like a saddle. And when it rained, she would put the purse in a Walmart plastic bag so it wouldn't get wet. She would try to steal rolls from restaurants. She'd sneak and roll them up in a paper towel and put them in her purse, and they wouldn't care about you taking them, but damn it, she felt like she was stealing from the world when she did it. My friends used to call her mom because she was just everyone's mom. She used to take in flowers to every teacher. Like, she was huge on growing lilies and tulips. She would take flowers into every teacher, and they would have flowers in their classroom. Every February 18th, this is the day for her. So when I get this question, why call it the Nutsy? And I get to tell the story of the squirrel. And that's who gave me Nutsy. And I never realized, like, this whole time, for the longest time, you think they're gone. But no matter what, if you love someone and they pass away, they're still always around you in some aspects. And for me, every time I look and I see the squirrel staring back at me, I just get a smile on my face because I know that she's still here. And I thank you guys for listening to me ramble. This has been one of the harder episodes for me to do, and some days I don't want to talk about it, some days I do. This is the first time I've actually ever talked about it. Tonight's the Nutsies. I hope you guys enjoy the show. It's going to be a blast. There will not be a buzz on Wednesday. I got to have a couple of days. Ashley's having surgery today too. So it's kind of an emotional whirlwind right now. If, like I said, I said this in SNS, if you guys could send some positive vibes Ashley's way, that'd be great. We're back on Friday. I don't know the topic. It'll be a surprise. It's going to be more lighthearted than this, though. But guys, thank you for listening to The Buzz. Don't forget the Nutsies. Don't forget to check out Store Shop TBK. I wish I knew how to end this show and make it a little bit more lighthearted, but I don't at the moment. So I'm going to leave you with this statement. I remember a time frame where a hoarder would tell me cleanliness is next to godliness. And I knew that somewhere deep down inside that was a hypocritical statement from a hoarder. All right, guys, we will see you tonight for the Nutsy Awards. and The Buzz on Friday. Thanks, guys, for listening. We will see you later.